Welcome to the Happiest Mouse Podcast. This is a weekly show where we discuss all things Disney. If you enjoy going to the parks and talking about your love of Disney as much as we do, then this show is for you. You can subscribe to the Happiest Mouse Podcast in your favorite podcasting app. Hey friends, welcome back to the Happiest Mouse Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about our experience as first-timers. If you didn't get a chance, please go back to our introduction episode where Kiosha and I explained to you that, we grew up going to Disneyland and we just experienced our first trip to Walt Disney World. And we did so during one of the busiest times of years. We went during Thanksgiving weekend. And yes, it was crowded, wasn't it, Kiosha?
It was very packed. And we made some rookie mistakes that we learned from.
Yeah, we definitely did make some rookie mistakes, but experience is one of life's greatest teachers, definitely. For our first time, we decided not to stay on property. We actually stayed off property. The main reason we did that is because I am big on, what people call travel hacking. So I like to accumulate credit card points and different things like that to use for trips. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to travel as much as we do. Now, we don't travel nearly as much as we would like. That's definitely for sure. And especially, of course, just coming out of a pandemic, we haven't traveled really all that much at all.
So, because of that, we actually accumulated almost 2 years worth of airline points, hotel points, those kind of things. So we were actually able to get our flight from Houston to Orlando for free using points. And then we were able to use some certificates that we had accumulated and some points to get our stay covered. So basically, we paid nothing for our lodging or our travel. So that was really exciting. So we actually stayed at Hyatt Place, and this is the one that's on Palm Parkway in Orlando. And so it is, I would say it took us about 15 minutes or so from our hotel to Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes, really to any of the parks, maybe 20 minutes, but traffic honestly wasn't actually that bad. When we had to get there, we did use a Lyft every time. Obviously, Thanksgiving Day was our first day of our trip. We flew in Wednesday night, and we went to Magic Kingdom Thursday morning. And so getting there, actually, we were able to get an Uber, or rather a Lyft, pretty quickly. Coming home is where we had to wait a little bit. But overall, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, and we, like Kiosha said, we stayed at the Hyatt Place. It's called Hyatt Place Orlando Lake Buena Vista. And it's on Palm Parkway. A lot of hotels over there. And so, yeah, we enjoyed the hotel. I think the room itself was very nice. We got a king bed room. I had a nice couch that pulled out into a bed. And the overall size of the room was great. I think the location was good for staying off property. Obviously, it was our first trip, so we don't have a ton of experience. And just being able to share with you, what the pros and cons were, right, of this hotel versus others. But overall, it was a good hotel. I think for us, where it was lacking was probably the breakfast. It did come with morning breakfast, and it wasn't bad. But we stay at Hyatt hotels quite a bit. Part of the reason is because I do have a Hyatt credit card and does give me a lot of points and that annual certificate, which is part of the reason, like Kiosha said, we were able to stay for free. We had about 3 years almost worth. We had 3 certificates worth of free night stays, so we were able to use those, and we had to use them by the end of 2021 or they were going to expire. So we were like, well, where can we go? And so we actually wanted to take a beach vacation because we were like, we needed to relax a little bit. We need to recharge and kind of, just get back to normal. But every place we looked, we couldn't really find anything that worked. There wasn't anything really that close. And so just kind of for fun, I was like, let me just see if there's anything near Disney World. And surprisingly, I found this hotel, was able to use all 3 certificates for 3 of the nights. And we stayed a total of 5 nights. And I was able to use points for the other 2 nights. And so from there, it kind of turned into, well, yeah, let's just go. And I think actually originally we weren't even going to do Disney. We were like, well, why don't we do Universal? And so then we looked at doing, we're going to do like 2 days at Universal and just kind of hang around. And then we were like, well, what if we do 2 days at Universal and then like a day at Disney? And then next thing you know, we're like, let's just do all the days at Disney.
And that is actually how the conversation went. And I will say that we planned this trip at like 9 o'clock at night maybe 45 days before we were going to go. For us, I kind of feel like that was a little bit last minute. So that probably contributes to some of the quote mistakes that we might have made or the lack of availability on some things. But overall, we really enjoyed this trip. Some of the things, like Shane said, we were a little disappointed in the breakfast. And so what was disappointing was that I have a sensitivity with eggs, so I usually don't eat them at hotels unless I know for sure it's an egg and not like powdered eggs. So they did have scrambled eggs, and they had like sausage, and they had like pre-made pancakes or French toast, something like that. It was just still a little lacking. You had your standard water, orange juice, those kind of things. They did have oatmeal. However, because I'm guessing because of COVID, it was a pre-packaged little cup of oatmeal, but they did not have any hot water for me to warm it up or a microwave for me to warm it up. So I did try to use the coffee hot water. So like when you go over to the coffee area, they have coffee or they have hot water for tea. So I did try to use that to warm up my oatmeal, but that just never really worked. It was still like crunchy oatmeal or something. It was just very disappointing. So we did only try to eat the breakfast one on that first day on Thursday. After that, we did other things. So that was probably the biggest disappointment. Otherwise, the customer service was very good. There was restaurants within walking distance. So like for us, we did not have a car. The first night we got there, we did order dinner and walked over and picked it up. It was very simple, very easy. There was a Starbucks across the street. So it was very convenient for what we were going to use it for.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if like we said, we've stayed at various Hyatt hotels, all throughout the country. And the breakfast at some of the other Hyatts has just been amazing. I remember one place we stayed, they had like an omelet bar, and like fresh omelets to, made any way you want it. Now, that obviously was pre-COVID time, so I don't know if some of the selection and reduction of selection, was still due to they're not maybe back at full capacity. So I don't want to cast this hotel off as a full failure, because it wasn't, right? I mean, if you had a whole family and, there was definitely enough offerings there if you had kids, right? They had cereal, they had muffins, they had bagels. They had enough stuff there. And they did have a hot breakfast, right? They had, the first day they had sausage, they had eggs, like Kiyoshi said, I think it was like French toast or pancakes. It wasn't as good as we've had at other places. And so we did eat it the first day, but then other days we decided, let's just eat. I think one morning we went to Starbucks and grabbed a coffee and a breakfast sandwich. One day we ate in the parks. But we'll kind of talk about that as we go down the list here. So we're going to kind of just talk about our whole experience in general. And so, our first day on Thursday, which was Thanksgiving Day, we started off at Magic Kingdom. It was our first time, obviously, at Disney World, so we wanted to start at Magic Kingdom since it's most similar to what we're used to, right? Magic Kingdom is laid out very similar to Disneyland. However, it's bigger, and it's not laid out like Disneyland. It's similar, but during our day, we're like, let's go on this ride. And so we'd start heading toward a certain area. It should be over here. And it's like, okay.
But it's not.
But it's not.
But it's not. But overall, we did enjoy that very much. We did start our day, like Shane said, taking a lift over to the park. And they do drop you off at the transportation center. And that's where you're going to go through security. And you have two options. You can either take the ferry or you can take the monorail. And so we chose to take the monorail.
Classic. We had to. I love the monorail.
And overall, it was a good experience, although it was packed. And I mean, we were packed in there like sardines. That really kind of started my day off a little weird because I don't like being confined and those kind of things. But overall, it was a good experience. It was a very quick ride from the transportation center over into Magic Kingdom. And then we were able to just start our day.
Yeah. And that packed, I mean, obviously the parks are busy, but being packed inside the monorail like that, I think that's pretty standard. Mm-hmm. Obviously we didn't go at any point before. I know during COVID, the crowd still, we're still in COVID, but right after the parks reopened, I guess I should say, there the crowds were a little bit more or less intense. But yeah, once we got to the front of Magic Kingdom, we walked down, scanned our tickets, and we were on our way. And so we walked down Main Street, took that in a little bit, walked all the way towards the front of the castle. We got there, I think the park opened at like 9 or something that day, and we got there, about 8:30? Got there a little bit early. We didn't have any early entry, but for Magic Kingdom, they let you in, they let you go down Main Street, if you were going to do other things. And so we were going to rope drop, but then we decided to go ahead and watch the morning show. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it was cute. We enjoyed that. And then we did end up buying Genie Plus for this day. So we didn't buy it with our tickets. You can buy it with your tickets, but then you have to get it for each day that you're at the parks. So we bought it the morning of, and we did use it. So we'll probably do another episode later on talking about what we really appreciated about Genie Plus, what we didn't, and we're going to go ahead and get them while we're at Disneyland. So that way we can compare the two and kind of see, which one's worth it, which one's not. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. You can do so on your favorite podcast app, on Spotify, or even directly on our website. Also, be sure to follow us on our Instagram at The Happiest Mouse, where we post pictures and our upcoming trip as well of Disneyland and California Adventure. But getting back to our trip here at Magic Kingdom, what was the first ride we went on? I know we tried to go, that's what it was. We tried to go over to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. But of course, people who stay on property get early entrance. And so by the time we watched the parade, then kind of rope dropped, we went through, I think, Adventureland, and tried to go around the back to Fantasyland. But by the time we got to the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that line was just wrapped so long around the ride. And
so it literally, whatever the queue on the inside was, that was packed, and it was wrapped all the way around almost to, I think it's Gaston's Tavern or whatever the Gaston restaurant is. It was way back there, and people were still getting in line. We're not probably going to stand in line for more than an hour. That's kind of our max. But, and we'll talk more about the wait times at other parks on our trip. But definitely, so basically we had to redecide what we were going to do, because that was kind of our idea, that we were going to ride that first, because that's one of the ones that we don't have in Disneyland. So we ended up going to the Ariel ride, because it's right next to
well, it's on the back side of it.
Okay.
Right, because I'm not remembering correctly. I don't know if Gaston's on the same side as Ariel. For some reason, I thought Gaston's was in front of the entrance of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, but I could be misremember, because remember, we walked around that whole line. Because we were going to let's try to get in line, but we just kept walking and walking and walking, on the side of, and eventually to the back of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And then we were like, this line is way too long. The Little Mermaid ride was right there. And so we were like, you know what? This line is short. Let's just hop in it.
And it was a walk-on.
It was a walk-on. Yeah. We walked right through. It took us 5 minutes maybe. Which was cool, right? It was our first ride in Disney World, was Little Mermaid. We enjoyed it. And then from there, I think what did we do from there? Did we go over, was it Splash Mountain?
I don't know if it was Splash Mountain next, but it was definitely one of the first rides we got on was Splash Mountain. But let's just talk about Splash Mountain, because I don't remember what we rode next.
So I know right after Little Mermaid, we did run and use the restrooms over at was it the Tangled area?
It's the Tangled area.
Yeah, and we just happened upon it, right?
Yeah.
And that area is so nice, right?
It's really cutely decorated. It really looks like you're in the movie Tangled. It has like it looks like Rapunzel painted it. It's very cute. It has some little lanterns in the trees and stuff. It's very cute, as bathrooms go.
Yeah. Oh, no, I remember what we did after Little Mermaid. We did Small World.
Oh, it's a Small World, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's in a totally different spot in Magic Kingdom than it is in Disneyland. And so just Fantasyland in general to me is so much different at Magic Kingdom than at Disneyland. Like, I don't know where anything is. I just felt lost. And so it was having to relearn a new park, which was fun. It was fun, but it was also a little bit like, oh, no, that's not where that's supposed to be. But okay, that's cool. I feel like Disneyland's Disneyland Small World is a little bit better, but I haven't been on Disneyland's Small World in such a long time, because when we were there in 2020, we didn't get a chance to ride it. because the parks were a little crowded, and that's one of the rides that we skipped. So I'm going to definitely want to ride it when we're there in 2 weeks, just so I can kind of compare, since we so recently went on the one in Magic Kingdom. And we'll talk about that on another episode, I think, as well. Yeah, and so then from there...
We also tried, because right across the way is Peter Pan's Flight, and that's Shane's favorite ride. So we did try to get on that, and of course it was closed right when we... So we thought, oh, the line looks short, let's go try to ride on it. But actually it was closed at that time, and so we again had to, pivot onto our ride plans. And I believe that's when we went over to Splash Mountain.
Yeah.
I believe we were able to use Genie Plus to get right onto that ride, to walk right on. It was interesting because they had actually just reopened it right as we walked up.
Yeah, so kind of backing up, I think, a little bit. Did we try to did we have the Fast Pass for Peter Pan or no? Not yet. I think we had.
I don't think we had it yet.
Okay, I think we tried to book it, right, but we saw it wasn't available in the app, and then that's when we realized it was closed. And so I think then we booked because we tried to do that first. I think before It's a Small World, actually, and A Small World is right across from Peter Pan's Flight in Magic Kingdom. And so I think while we were in line for It's a Small World, I think in that queue we waited. I mean, it was long, but it wasn't too bad. Maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, which wasn't too bad, I don't think. For that ride, because that ride moves pretty quickly. And then while we were in line for that, we made our Fast Pass selection for Splash Mountain, because our goal was, okay, after this, let's run to Adventureland, and or is that Adventureland? Frontierland, right? Frontierland, and do Splash Mountain. Oh, my mind's blanking. What's
Thunder Mountain?
Thunder Mountain, thank you. And then we were going to skip Jungle Cruise, because this time of year it's Jingle Cruise, but the lines were always so long. We were looking at the app every day. How long is the ride for Jungle Cruise? And it was always over an hour. And so we're like, you know what? We're just going to skip it. We've been on it before. But yeah, as Kyosha said, we had our I keep wanting to call it Fast Pass. That's what they used to be called. We had our Genie Plus reservation for Splash Mountain. So we headed that way, and it was closed, right? And we're like, sorry, it's closed. But at that point, it still showed we had our Genie Plus reservation. And so, we went, maybe a month after Genie Plus had launched. I think it launched October 19th, if my memory is correct, but somewhere around there. And so you have an hour, right, to use the Genie Plus reservation. So let's just say our reservation was at 10:30. I don't remember exactly what time it was. You have between 10:30 and 11:30 to scan to use that Genie Plus pass. Well, if a ride goes down, what happens is they give you a I forget what it's called, but it's like an experience pass, I think, that you can use on any of the Lightning Lane attractions, with the exception of the paid ones. So in Magic Kingdom, that would be Space Mountain and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And so, but we walked up, and oh no, sorry, we're closed. The ride's down, and we're trying to fix it. And so we're like, oh man, okay. So we weren't sure what to do. We're like, almost instantly, like within a minute or two, they're like, it's back up. And so we looked. The lady was like, yep, you can come on in. So we scanned our Genie Plus passes, and we walked through the queue. I mean, literally walked through. Like, we were the very first ones on the ride. We actually were the only ones in our log. And like that never happens. And so, I mean, we had a great time. I mean, it was fun. We of course bought that picture because we're the only ones on the log.
And can I just say, it's a pretty awesome picture for Shane, not so much for me. But we'll put it on our Instagram so you guys can look at it.
Yeah, so make sure you go follow us at the Happiest Mouse. And yeah, I mean, I am enjoing that fall, and Kyo is holding on for dear life. It's a great photo. I mean, we had to buy it, one, for the reaction, right? And two, because we're the only ones on the log. And that like never happened. So yeah, that was great. I really enjoyed that. That's quite an experience. And so after Splash Mountain, I think we were going to try to ride Thunder Mountain. But the line was a little bit long, and we were starting to get hungry. Because at this time, that was our third ride. And it was about maybe 11, I think. So not too bad. And we were starting to get a little hungry. And so then we went over to Pico Spills, I think, right? And we really enjoyed that. We got I think I got the nachos, and you got the taco, or the fajitas maybe?
Fajitas, yeah.
Yeah. And so we kind of shared off of that, but that was really good.
I actually really enjoyed the fajitas, and I believe the other day that we ended up park hopping back to Magic Kingdom, I believe we got it again. But I really enjoyed the fajitas. It was 3 different meats. It was like a pork, a chicken. Maybe it was just 2. I just remember pork and chicken. But it comes with rice and beans. I thought it was delicious. The nachos were a little disappointing for me, but they were still good. They weren't like bad or anything like that. They just, I could have went for a little bit more meat on those nachos.
Yeah, and I think too, you don't really like the nacho cheese, like that fake nacho cheese.
Yeah.
You prefer like real cheese on your nachos. You always put the shredded cheese and you melt it yourself. So I think that's part of the reason why you didn't care for this, because it kind of had that
plasticky cheese.
Yeah, it wasn't really, because like and we only know this because we're new, but the Casey's Corner, they had like that fake plastic cheese that comes with those mini corn dogs, which we tried, and it was okay. I like the corn dogs a lot better than I like the cheese. It wasn't quite that plasticky at Pecos Bills, but it was almost reminding me of like a Velveeta type. I don't think it was Velveeta, but it kind of reminded me of that, which I enjoy. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think that's why you did not like it, because it kind of had that fake cheese. And so, was this the day that you found your balloon popcorn bucket? Was it the first day or was it the last day?
It was the first day, because it might have been right around this time. I saw a lady with a pink Mickey popcorn bucket. It's like the Mickey balloon popcorn bucket, and I had seen it online and things, and I knew I wanted one, but I didn't see it at any of the popcorn buckets. So I bravely asked her where she got it, and asked her if she got it today, because a lot of people bring their popcorn buckets back from previous trips. But she's like, no, I got it today. It's over at the popcorn bucket in front of Tomorrowland. So we went over to Tomorrowland, and magically on Thanksgiving they had the popcorn bucket. So I ended up getting the pink popcorn bucket over at the I'm sure there's a name for it, but it's the popcorn stand right in front of the little, before you get to the bridge to go into Tomorrowland. It's right there.
Yeah, it's just, if you're walking into Tomorrowland, the bridge is to the left, right? And so I think this is the one that had like 4 different colors, right? I think there was the pink one you got. There was a blue one. Is it a green?
I think there's a green.
Yellow?
I think there's a green, and there might be a red. This time they only had the pink one, and it is decorated for the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, which is really cool. And so you got that. That was one of the things on your checklist that you wanted to get, so you were able to get it. Another thing on your list that you wanted to get was the mini sipper, which you did get as well. And I think you got that at Star Traders.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that one was from Star Traders. I think that's technically Tomorrowland also.
Yeah, it's in Tomorrowland.
And so I had seen people all over the park with it, and everybody kept telling me, oh no, I got this last time, or no, I got this in Disney Springs, and nobody really, or somebody else said, oh no, I got this in Epcot, and nobody really wanted to like give me the information to get one too.
It's top secret.
It was like top secret. And so we were over by the Carousel of Progress, and we found a crew member that was doing the strollers and stuff. And so she seemed really nice, so I stopped and asked her. I said, do you know where I can get the mini sipper? And she told me that I can get it at the what was that place called?
Star Traders, I think.
Star Traders. So we ended up
no, that may not be right. Star Traders? I think that's right.
Or the launching pad? It wasn't the launching pad.
The launching pad.
I think it was Star Traders.
I think it was Star Traders.
And so we ran over there, and they had it, and that's the only thing we got there. And so it does come with a drink that they gave me. They don't put it in the sipper, but they give you a cup with a soda in it. So
yeah, and then I think looking back, after we got back, we started to do a little more research, and I think we could have got it at Pecos Bills. I think they also sold it there. I don't remember if we asked or not.
So we did ask at Pecos Bill, and the guy said that they didn't have it.
Okay.
And so then I was really sad and depressed, because I'm like, that's why we came to Pecos Bill, because I wanted the sipper. And so, and he didn't know. He was very nice, but he's like, I don't even know when we're going to get them in stock. And so then I just thought that I wasn't going to ever get it again. Like, I just thought I missed out. And then so I was really excited when I was able to find it.
Yeah. And so we had a good time in Magic Kingdom, and we spent all day there. We stayed, we basically rope dropped it, and we closed the park out, right? So I think right after the show, we left and headed back home or back to the hotel, and we took the ferry back, which was enjoyable. That was my first time taking the ferry, of course, because our first trip, everything was firsts. But I'm really happy because I got to ride the People Mover at Magic Kingdom, which they do not have at Disneyland anymore. I remember riding it as a little boy growing up. Also, we went on Carousel of Progress, which they don't have at Disneyland. And I don't think I went on that as a little boy. If I did, I definitely don't remember. But I enjoyed it. We went on Space Mountain. Space Mountain was so fun in Disney World at Magic Kingdom. We ended up going on. I'm forgetting because I know on our last day we went back to Magic Kingdom, so I can't remember if all of these things were on the first day or whatnot. But
one of our other firsts from Magic Kingdom that I really enjoyed is because we were there from park opening to park close, we did try to take more breaks throughout the day. And some of the things that we really, really enjoyed were the spring rolls. We had the hamburger spring rolls, I believe.
Cheeseburger, I think.
Cheeseburger. So they had cheeseburger and they had a pastrami. We did not get the pastrami because it had mustard in it, and we both are not fans of mustard. And it had it like in the meat and stuff. I don't think it was in the meat. I think it came with a mustard sauce. Okay.
Yeah, but we don't like mustard, so we were like, well, let's not get that. Let's just get the cheeseburger one,
And the cheeseburger ones were good. And so what we did is we went over and got the spring roll, and then walked over and got a Dole Whip and some churros. And we sat down and watched one. And it just so happened we were sitting down in Frontierland.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that a little cavalcade parade went by. So we were able, I think it was the princesses. So we were able to eat our snack, take a break, and watch a parade. But one of the most surprising things was that we grew up going to Disney, but never had Dole Whip until this trip. And we were really sleeping on the Dole Whip, and we really enjoyed it. Now,
I think you blasting us out like that. People are gonna be like, how could we not have tried Dole Whip at Disneyland?
It was just not a thing that we tried. I don't know, and a lot of times growing up when we went to Disneyland, we were on a budget, so we didn't get a lot of snacks because our parents paid so much money just to get us to the park. We usually only did one meal. It was usually dinner that we would do. All the other meals we would bring our own snacks.
Yeah, well, and I think too, when we were growing up, and even as young adults, they didn't have mobile order, right? So you had to wait in line,
right?
And to be fair, the Dole Whip line was always pretty long, and so it was always one of those things. Well, I'm not going to waste my time standing in that line, right? I can go grab a churro, or go get an ice cream cone on Main Street at the is it the Creamery? Yeah. And so that's what we did instead, right? We are, one of our favorite traditions and treats is the ice cream cone from the Creamery. But yeah, so we got the Dole Whip, which the Dole Whip stand in Magic Kingdom is in Adventureland, I think. And so if you're familiar with Magic Kingdom, right there when you get the Dole Whip, there's that little entrance, kind of like a little pathway that goes from Adventureland to Frontierland. And so that's where we went and sat after we got our snack. So we got our egg rolls, right, our Dole Whip, and our churro. Now the Dole Whip was a different experience for us because we knew we could mobile order, but we were right there, so we were just like, well, there's a line that you can get in and order. So try to tell this story just real quick. There was I think 5 different lines. 4 of them were clearly designated for a mobile order, right? And so the 5th one, it just had a sign to get in. So we were like, okay, well, we're not mobile ordering, so we got in this line. And it was busy. All the lines were packed. And then more people just kept showing up after we got there. So we got in that line. We got all the way to the front. And the person was like, oh, no, I just give you your order from what you already ordered. You need to get in another line. And we had been in this line for probably 20 minutes. I was a little annoyed, but I'm okay, fine. So we got in that other line. And then by the time we got to the front, it was like, no, this is mobile order only. And so at that point, I'm pretty annoyed. And so they told us, okay, you got to get into this 3rd line. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So I go into this 3rd line, and I'm already kind of upset. And then now this lady comes out, and I think there's a lot of confusion this day. I don't know how it normally runs, but I feel like this was happening to a lot of people. So I think they sent a cast member out to try to okay, did you already mobile order? What are you doing? To try to direct people. And so I'm in this third line that now a second person has told me to get into. And so I tell her, like, I just want to order. Is this the right line? And she's like, no, you need to go. And I'm like, I think telling us to go back to the first line we were in. It was just a big mess. And like, I didn't get like mad, but I was clearly annoyed. And I think I expressed that to her. I was like, this is literally our third line that we're trying to get a Dole Whip. We just want a regular Dole Whip. Like, so you're telling me I have to go back into this line. And I'm trying not to like be disrespectful to this cast member because I know she's just doing her job and it's not her fault. Like, by this time, we probably could have just mobile ordered and received our Dole Whip already, which is what we did the second time we were there. We just mobile ordered it and it worked out fine. But I think that's another episode we can probably talk about is the mobile ordering experience, just specifically at Aloha Isle, because if you're going to mobile order, like, why are the lines still so long? Yeah. I think it's just one of those things where it's popular, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, this cast member, and I wish we would have got her name. She was so sweet. She said, what did you want, right? And so we just said, just a regular Dole Whip, just one. And she went into the bag, brought it out, and said, here you go. And we were like, okay, we were even willing to pay for it. And she's like, no, this one's on Mickey, right? And so, like, just one of the little small things that you hear about sometimes throughout people's stories through Disneyland, like that magic. And so we got to experience it. And, it kind of took away some of that annoyance. And at least we got it because I was about ready to give up and get out of that line. And so we had that. We had our egg rolls, and then we had our churro. We went and sat down, and at this point I'm like, okay, let's just sit down, let's just eat. And then that cavalcade came through, like you said. It was kind of like a nice little time for us to just kind of relax, take our time, like you said we were doing in Magic Kingdom, enjoy the snacks and enjoy the show. And so I think that's going to be a story and experience I probably share pretty often.
And the thing is I know right now there's a lot of complaints about Disney losing its magic with everything costing so much and a lot of things changing, but there are some really good cast members and crew members that do still believe in the Disney magic and believe in good customer service. So it kind of like that saying goes, it restored my faith in humanity. It's like, it was one of those things where it kind of restored the Disney magic for us and made it so that we can go about our day and not be irritated and grumpy the rest of the day.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason why it was so special to us too is because the last time we went to Disneyland in 2020, we didn't really have that great of an experience with the cast members. Just about every cast member we had a dealing with just didn't seem like they were interested in being there at their job. So I don't know. But either way, we still tried to have a good time, and that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so that kind of made it a little bit more special for us. So we spent a lot of time on Magic Kingdom. That was on Thursday. Mm-hmm. We did also, real quick, have special outfits for this day. So Kyosha had a 50th anniversary celebration dress, and then she was able to find me the matching button-up shirt. So we'll put pictures of that as well on our Instagram at the Happiest Mouse.
You forgot to mention that I had 50th anniversary ears as well.
That's right, you did. And I hydro dipped us some shoes that day. Now I had Sperry's, so they were more comfortable for me. Yours we got from Walmart, and so by towards the end of the day, your feet were barking. Oh. And so that was the night that Kyosha became a Crocs converter, because we went into one of the shops and she got herself a pair of Crocs, popcorn Crocs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my feet were hurting so bad. They felt like they were on fire. And I went in there thinking I was just going to get some little slides or some flip-flops or something, because by this time it was probably 7:30 and we were just doing the last few things before we were going back to the hotel. But I found these Mickey Crocs. They're the Mickey popcorn bucket, so it has Mickey. They're red and yellow, and they have little popcorn printed on them. And I hate Crocs. I make fun of people with Crocs. I've been doing it for years. I thought they were the stupidest thing ever. They're so ugly, whatever. But then I put these on my feet, and it was like walking on pillows of air. And I know that's probably an exaggeration, but my feet hurt that bad. And they were very expensive Crocs.
Well, the Crocs in general are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these were, they're Disney, right? So, and you're buying them at Disney.
Yeah.
But we went to the Crocs store recently here locally in Houston, Texas. And they actually weren't that much more expensive than standard Crocs. I mean, they were maybe $10 more.
Yeah.
$5 more in Disneyland.
I think they were $15 more. But
even that, to me, that doesn't seem too bad.
But the price that I paid for them, in my opinion, was worth every penny, because I literally could go on.
I mean, after she put these on, she had like a renewed zeal for life. Like, it was like she was like ready to call it quits. After she put these on, she was just like, all right, let's go. I mean, like she said, it was like 7 o'clock, and we stayed in the park for another, 3 hours or so, because I think the show was at 9 or 10, and we left not too long after the show. So maybe 2 or 3 hours more we stayed in the park. But, I mean, it was amazing.
So needless to say, if you're going to go to the parks anytime soon, make sure you wear very comfortable shoes that are comfortable for your feet. Crocs worked out for me, but I don't know if they're going to work out for everyone. But just one of the most important things is your Disney shoes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, once she got those shoes on, like I said, she had a renewed zeal for life. It was amazing. But these outfits that we had on, like, we got compliments all day, right? Like, even towards the end of the day, we were kind of just sitting there resting a little bit before we were going to go head back to the hotel. And even people just walking by were like, we love your outfits. I mean, it was great. And so that was our first day at Walt Disney World EVER. Well, technically, Kiosha went when she was little, but she really didn't get to experience because she got sick, like she mentioned in our introduction episode. So, again, if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, make sure you go back and do that. Now, this episode is running a little bit long already. So I think what we'll do is we'll turn this into a two-parter episode. So on the part 2 of this episode, we'll talk about Friday and Saturday. And so we went to Disney World 3 days in a row. We went to all 4 parks. And so we'll talk about Friday, our experience at Hollywood Studios and Epcot. And then when we went on Saturday, we went to Animal Kingdom and went back to Magic Kingdom to close our trip out. And then we were also there Sunday for Disney. We just went to Disney Springs and kind of just relaxed a little bit. So we'll talk about our experience for the other parks on part 2 of this episode. So make sure you're subscribed either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or direct on our podcast website at happiestmouse.com/BuzzFeed. So make sure that you're subscribed. We hope to see you next time. And until then, stay happy, friends.